Review, the Wild Reviewer, and welcome to day 23 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days, the cartoon specials. We're almost there, everybody. We're almost there. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve. Isn't that a Friends thing? Merry Christmas Eve, or is it Merry Christmas Eve? Comment below if you think I should do Friends next. An entire 25 Wild Christmas Review Days Friends marathon. I don't think there are that many Friends Christmas episodes. There's only 10 seasons of that show. I've only seen half the show also, fun fact. I would love to see more. I'm interested in binging the entire show. I don't have Max. No, that's what it's called, Max. I was going to say HBO Max, but I guess it's called Max now. There is that bundle with Disney Plus, but I don't know if I want to do that, because that means we lose ESPN. And I'm not a sports person, but people in my family watch that. Bob's Burgers. Bob's Burgers is an animated series that's been airing on Fox since 2011. The show focuses on the Belcher family, mainly the father, Bob Belcher, as they all run a struggling burger restaurant while also dealing with crazy nonsense that comes their way. In 2013, the episode Christmas in the Car premiered and saw Linda forcing the family to drive an hour away from their home to get a Christmas tree after their other trees died. While on the road, they encounter a candy cane truck that starts to follow them after Bob cuts him off. Then, in 2016, The Last Gingerbread House on the Left aired, and saw Bob taking part in Mr. Fischoeder's gingerbread house competition with the hopes Bob will make the worst house. Meanwhile, Linda, Teddy, and the kids go caroling and try to avoid a creepy house with a creepy backstory. Finally, in 2017, The Bleakening, both Part 1 and 2, premiered. This two-parter saw Linda throwing a Christmas party to bring holiday cheer to the neighborhood. She cuts the top of their family Christmas tree to decorate the restaurant with its own tiny Christmas tree, decorated with the kids' homemade ornaments. But after the tiny tree goes missing, Linda and Bob go hunting for it, while the kids investigate and hunt down the mysterious creature known as the Bleakin. So I guess we'll jump into Christmas in the Car now, mainly because that's the episode that got me into watching Bob's Burgers, funny enough. I don't remember what year this was, but I know it wasn't too long ago. It was definitely before COVID. It may have been a year or two before COVID had hit. I was getting late, but I wasn't tired, so I stayed up just for a little bit longer, and I was just channel surfing. I went on the Boomerang channel, saw a few Cartoon Network holiday specials, some that I had already talked about. Then they stopped playing Christmas specials just because. So then I went to Cartoon Network, and at the time they were playing Adult Swim, and the one show that was coming on was Bob's Burgers, the episode Christmas in the Car, and I watched the entire episode, and then I went to bed. That was the last thing I ended up watching on that specific Christmas Eve, and that has always resonated with me. I walked away from that episode of Bob's Burgers thinking, everybody in that show is absolutely insane. And I think that's a valid argument. Much like Family Guy and The Simpsons and American Dad, Bob's Burgers is still airing on television. It's probably going to be one of those shows that will just keep on going forever. To my knowledge, although I haven't done super much research on Bob's Burgers, I don't think there was ever a point within the show's history where somebody decided that they wanted to cancel it, but then it just never got canceled. I think it's just been going since 2011. It's a very wacky show. It's a very funny show. The writing is definitely funny. I love how it can be a little realistic. You'll have characters that are talking over each other. You'll have characters that are fighting with each other. Like, there's little details within what they're saying that make it really funny. It's also very awkward at times. Like, characters will just say stuff out of nowhere. Sometimes it can be very relatable. Most of the time when I'm watching it, I just think that every character that is not Bob is nuts. And then there are times where Bob is the one that's the nut job, and it makes everybody else kind of look somewhat normal, but still staying in character. Like, if Bob does something weird, Gene will probably watch and say something that fits his character, but he won't stand out as the weirdo in that scene. It'll be Bob. So it's interesting how that character dynamic works. Just like Phineas and Ferb, or at least kind of like Phineas and Ferb, Every episode, or at least to my knowledge, every episode does have its own little musical number. Not necessarily in the show itself. Sometimes episodes will contain a musical number, but you'll mostly hear these songs at the end, specifically in the credits. Typically, these songs will just be little melodies that are heard in the episode. One that comes to mind is a song where Gene's singing about how he doesn't like snakes. That's just a little thing he sings within the episode, but once we get to the end credits, it's an actual song. Another one is Teddy singing about how he's falling for a character named Helen. It relates to things that happened within the episode. But again, there are some episodes, like a few of the Christmas episodes that I've just mentioned and we will talk about, that do have full-blown musical numbers. One of the episodes in particular, The Bleakening, that's essentially like a musical episode or a two-part musical episode. And the songs aren't bad. I don't know if the actors are necessarily singers themselves, but they can come off as very convincing, and it doesn't have to be perfect either. Some songs, they could be okay, but then again, we are dealing with a show where these characters are being treated like real people. They're being put in real scenarios, and it is very believable. Their conversations, having people talk over each other, the constant logic that is essentially thrown out the window with these characters. And, I guess, picture it like this show is happening in real life. And if ordinary people that aren't musically talented, if they just started singing, you think they'd be perfect? No. Some of the voice actors are very good singing in this show, others are just fine. But there are a lot of catchy songs. The movie has some very catchy songs. I remember I went to go see the Bob's Burgers movie, and the songs in that movie were fantastic. There are songs that are great. Other songs, they're okay to me, but regardless, I think it's a very enjoyable show. I know it's got that reputation that it's been on for too long now, and it's probably got a fan base like, oh, well, old Bob's Burgers was better, new Bob's Burgers sucks. There's people that still love Bob's Burgers now. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't watch the new stuff. I stick with the old stuff. I just like the show for the humor. Now, as for the Christmas content, again, there are a bunch of different Christmas episodes. A lot of episodes, actually, that I enjoy. I don't think there's one Bob's Burgers Christmas episode that I don't enjoy. But I picked Christmas in the Car, the Gingerbread House one, and the Bleakening, specifically because they're the ones that I've not only seen the most of, but I think I like them a little better than the other episodes. I think in close second, if I had to choose another one, it'd probably be the one where the kids try to please the mall Santa because they believe that he has an actual connection to the real Santa Claus. So now they're putting together a little musical on all the nice things they did, and Tina, she's singing about how she didn't kick a little, what is it, a little animal? Maybe no, it was like a sea crab, I think, because she's singing about how she was on the beach. But these three in particular episodes I really like. Starting off with Christmas in the Car, I mean, that was my first Bob's Burger episode, and really watching it, I just thought these characters were insane. Linda with buying the Christmas tree the day after Halloween. I mean, that just kind of set her character all together. That was my first impression of her. And just the constant agony that she felt. It's like, oh, the tree's dead. Hey, we got a new one. And then it's Christmas Eve. Now the tree's dead again. Now they got to drive all the way out because she's like, oh, we can't have Christmas without a tree. My favorite bit in the episode, though, has to be Teddy. I think Teddy is one of my favorite characters in the show because he just... Sometimes he'll say the most randomest things, and he'll just be the most wackiest one out of all of them. He's not part of the family whatsoever. He's like a friend of the family if you've never seen the show. But he just joins along with all the nonsense. One of my favorite bits of Teddy, just in the show altogether, is the episode... it's the episode where he's helping out Bob with the restaurant because Linda and the kids are somewhere else. I don't remember exactly where they are or what episode this was particularly, like, main plot, because this particular scene was not the main plot. But Bob's running the restaurant all by himself. Teddy's there. He's like, hey, I can help you, Bob. And Bob's like, no, I don't need it. And they start arguing. And then out of nowhere, Teddy just gets so offended and just starts yelling. in front of everybody. And I don't know, I found that pretty humorous. In this episode in particular, he's very funny. Definitely once he falls into the kids' trap as they're trying to catch Santa, which is essentially the subplot in this episode. He like puts his hand through the little homemade trap the kids made. Now he's stuck hanging on to the fridge. All the food's getting spoiled because the fridge is open. And periodically they'll just cut to him in the kitchen. There'll just be like maybe 5 seconds of animation, but it's just him just sitting in the kitchen as if the show is reminding us, hey, by the way, this character's here in this situation. I think my favorite bit out of that whole thing, it adds absolutely nothing to the episode, but he's just sitting there, he's looking up, he's like, oh, that's a stupid place to put bowls. Like, he's judging his friends, and that's funny to me. The actual concept of the episode with the candy cane truck, that has always just stuck in my mind whenever I think of Bob's Burgers Christmas episodes, and I think it has a lot to do with it being my first Bob's Burgers episode, and even the first Christmas episode I've seen of the show. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, the truck doesn't follow them throughout the entire episode. It's like the truck will be there, and then it won't be there, but then it'll reappear, and then it'll go away again. It's a big part of the episode, no doubt, because especially towards the end, they're trying to outrun or outdrive the truck, because they have no idea what's going to happen. But I think it's interesting. And unique Christmas special. I've never seen something like it before, but then again, I've never seen a show like Bob's Burgers before. I guess it's also interesting to note that at least with these 3 episodes, or technically 4, because The Bleakin' is a 2-parter, within these episodes that I've chosen, Christmas in the Car is the only one that has an actual intro to the show. Again, within these batch of episodes that I'm specifically talking about, I'm sure other Christmas specials have the Bob's Burgers intro, which is a very quick opening sequence. But this is the only one that I'm talking about that has an intro, and it's very festive-like. I could be wrong, but it may be the only festive kind of intro that the show has had. I'd have to go back to the other Christmas specials to see if there are any other ones, but this is the only one that I remember seeing snow falling on the ground. You can kind of hear a little hint of Jingle Bells, not the song, but just like the instrument of bells. Just a little one. It's like very faint. The other 2 episodes, the one about gingerbread and the Bleakening, they don't have an intro, which is really interesting. The Gingerbread House episode, that one's really funny, mainly with Linda and the kids going around Christmas caroling. I never found Christmas caroling to be enjoyable. I don't know what I would do if there were ever carolers at my door. I think I would move, and I don't think I'm joking. Them going around singing Christmas carols, that's funny to me. Especially when you hear each voice in particular. I mean, in that moment, Linda can't sing. She's just shouting. The gingerbread aspect, that was really cool. Definitely a typical Mr. Fish order. Mr. Fish order. Definitely a typical episode you would see this character get Bob involved with. Usually episodes that involve Mr. Fish order. I'm still saying it wrong. Episodes that include that character, they typically go this way. He always has to be like on top, especially when it comes to Bob. Bob always has to be the loser and he always has to be the winner regardless. So that very typical episode, but at the same time, it was still very enjoyable and very funny. For me personally, I love the ending. I love the Christmas carol that's sung as all the guys in the gingerbread house competition, they're holding up guns and they're just pointing them at each other. They're pointing them at the houses, and then they just start shooting the gingerbread houses. While that's happening, you have this opera singing in the background, and I'm not an opera person. I don't even know if you would consider that song in that moment an opera song. Honestly, it's probably not. I think it's more just like high-pitched vocals. But that is my favorite bit in the episode, and I do love the credits. I love the song at the credits, which is essentially the final song they sing as they go caroling. Like I said, some of the songs that you hear in the credits are actually sung in the episode. Sometimes they're just a simple sentence that's later turned into a song, or it's like a little ditty. But I love the music in this episode. That's the main thing that I really like about it, and the caroling. Also, it really makes me want to make gingerbread houses. I've never made a gingerbread house. Being that I am filming these in advance, and this is going out on December 23rd, there's always a chance that maybe I could make a gingerbread house. Maybe. I don't know if I can confirm that in the edit, because I don't know when this is going to be edited by, but, who knows? Maybe. Maybe one day. Finally, we have The Bleakening, which is a two-parter episode. Oddly enough, it's seen as just one episode. Like if you were to go on IMDb, it's labeled as one big episode. You go on Disney Plus and you look at it on TV, it's obviously 2 episodes. I'm assuming when it aired, it originally aired as an hour-long special, maybe very similar to Road to the North Pole. I guess in some cases you could watch Road to the North Pole in 2 parts, but in other cases you could probably watch it as an hour. I personally have always seen it just as a 2-part episode, but we're going to acknowledge it as one big story, one big episode, essentially. But do keep in mind, this is a 2-part episode, so if you were to look it up and you see that there's a part 1 and part 2, just be aware of that if you watch it. Have I clarified that enough for you? This is a 2-part episode, but we're talking about it as one. I like this one. I like The Bleakening. If I had to rank the episodes, I'd probably put The Bleakening maybe at number 2 in this list of 3 Christmas episodes that I've talked about. It'd be Christmas in the Car, and then The Bleakening, both part 1 and 2, and then Gingerbread House on the left. And that's not even including the other Christmas specials. Probably the mall one would go 4th. The Bleakening's fun. It's filled with Christmas festivities. It oddly enough has a lot more Christmas feels to it than the Gingerbread House one, which is odd because the Gingerbread House episode literally has gingerbread houses, it's got caroling, it's got things that you would associate with Christmas. This one not so much, but I guess just because of how musical it is and just because Linda is throughout the episode trying to explode with Christmas cheer, and then you have that rave at the very end and the decorations. I guess that is why it sticks out so much to me. I love the songs, especially the opening song, Teddy's song as he's in the Santa floaty. The Bleakening song can also be very catchy. I love Twinkly Lights. I especially like the rendition they sing with the whole cast during the credits. It's really fun. It's a really fun episode. It's semi-funny. It really focuses more on the story, nevertheless the humor, but the humor is still there. There are a lot of funny moments that can be seen in this episode. It is very enjoyable, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. If any of these episodes strike you as interesting, definitely check them out, and check out other Bob's Burger Christmas episodes that I did not talk about. Also, Bob's Burgers as a whole. Check out the series. You might like it if you've never seen it before. One thing about The Bleakening that I need to specify also that I like is that this is different than the typical episode where you deal with a character that may be mythical, maybe not real. Yeah, there's a moment in this episode where it does legitimately feel like that this creature is real. Of course, you could probably put together that it is just a human in a costume, and that's what it eventually ends up revealing to be. There's no such thing as the Bleakening. It's just something that Teddy made up, essentially, or he gave a name to the thief that's stealing things around the town. Bob's Burgers is not that kind of show where it introduces mythical creatures or anything like that, so that's the biggest indication that it's probably not that. It's probably just an individual in a costume, but there was this one little moment in part 2 specifically where they encounter this creature and they have no idea what it is. Let me know what you think about Bob's Burgers. I'd love to hear your comments below. I'm especially curious about the adult shows because I think a lot of people have similar feelings when it comes to the children's television stuff. But in terms of adult shows, people seem to be a bit more on the fence whether or not they like the new stuff, especially since those shows are still actively going. So I'm very curious to know what you think of Bob's Burgers. So let me know in those little comments below. Let me know what your favorite Christmas episode is, also if you're a fan. Also, do you not like Bob's Burgers? I'd be very interested to know why you don't like it. I'm interested to hear other opinions on why people don't like certain shows. Maybe it'll open my eyes to something and I'll join you, or maybe I'll just listen. Either thing can happen. But that's Bob's Burgers. Those are the Christmas episodes that I have chosen to talk about. I think they are all fantastic. And with that, that ends this review of those episodes. We're going to continue on now. We're almost there. We're almost to Christmas. We've got one more day before it's the big day, before the Christ of Jesus was born. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. We're done talking about the Fox stuff, I should also mention. The next 2 shows, they were created by the same person, and they're 2 shows that I've been on the fence whether or not I wanted to talk about them in this series, but being that this is a cartoon series, I feel I should talk about it. I had spoken about one of the shows beforehand. I guess I should talk about it again because it's been a while since I've talked about it. And the other one is Fresh, and I do generally want to talk about that show. So that's the plan for the next 2 days. Come back tomorrow for another cartoon discussion on Christmas Eve. It's sure to be a very festive time. Thanks for watching The Wild Review on The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing.